Hi everyone. What I thought I'd do today is talk to you a little bit about how to construct your designer research. It's really important starting out that you select a good designer to look at. That doesn't necessarily mean a notorious or famous designer that's critically acclaimed, but a designer that you can take lots of inspiration from. Fundamentally, you are going to need to be able to produce a good page, if not 2 pages, of research based on their work. So please select a designer that you feel that you can talk a lot about. If I think of an example of just an egg, for example, we can talk about its texture and its shape and what it does. But you might struggle to really develop a couple of pages of research on it. So do try and pick something that's got a level of intricacy, that's got a level of interest that you can do some research about to inform your writing on it. So choosing something is probably the most important step. Here I've chosen a chair or a chaise longue by Mark Newson. It's one of my favourite pieces of design, and it was something I came across when I was probably a similar age to you. And it's something that really inspired my kind of future path and really engaged me with creativity. So I thought I'd use this as an example to kind of talk you through the process of how to construct your designer research. The first thing you should note looking at this page is its presentation. And presentation is really important in your project. How you lay out your work, present your work, and the quality of written communication is all part of your assessment objective 3, okay, which is 25% of your course structure. So do think about it being a really important element. And it's great for us to be able to take extracts of your writing to give evidence for your ability. So, firstly, think about your layout. Chances are this is going to be just about your first piece of kind of solid work, which a moderator or examiner is going to see when they look at your project. So you want it to be visually pleasing and to really stand out and show a depth of understanding from the outset. Prior to this page, you've probably just got your mood board and your mind map. This is your first full page of real work where you're getting into the nitty gritty. Your first designer probably wants to reference the sorts of work you're going to explore in your project. It may be along the line you look at designers and artists from other mediums and bring them into your work. That is great. But for the time being, choose something for your first designer that is going to relate and show the sort of project you're going to start going into and start exploring. Think about your presentation early on. The decisions you make now, you need to stick with throughout your project so that it feels consistently designed as it goes through. You will look at my page that I've got in front of you. I've got a few key design considerations which I would keep running all the way through my project. Firstly, the orange title text and also the pull quotes. I think it's a really good opportunity for you when you're doing pieces of writing to highlight some of the key things, and you might do that by just creating pull quotes here. So make some areas stand out. Other things I've done is I included a range of images. Okay, show the design you're looking at from a range of different angles. Think about cropping into some small details and think about showing the overall form. But most importantly, think about hierarchy. Just like a newspaper headline page, you want to have a headline, a clear title. What is it that you're looking at? You want to have a strong image or images which is going to draw the attention in. You want to have some key pieces of text to show the level of your written communication and your ideas. And you also want to then have some more smaller kind of subtext within it, showing that actually all of the details and the level of understanding that you've got within your work. So hierarchy is really important. I recommend things like pull quotes and a range of different imagery. As you can see on this page, I've got a range of different images of the chair itself. I've also managed to find a chair where I'm talking about in my writing how it reflects to its environment. The metallic surface of it takes reference for its environment, so it helps it sort of atone and sit within it. That's what's said here. So, I've tried to find an image which really tries to justify my point. I've also made a lot of points about its form and discussed how it feels like this kind of undulating sort of droplet. Whilst it's a static chair, it almost feels like a viscous liquid. So over on the right hand side, I've included this picture of a spoon pouring thick honey off in these sort of droplets that are formed from it. I've also found this image of mercury droplet, and you see the shapes in these droplets of mercury just like the feet on this chair, and its metallic structure really references the design itself. So try and find other examples of things that it relates to. It may be that you can even go and take these photographs yourself, and that would be brilliant if you can use your own primary observation to reference them. Another key thing that I've done on my designer research page is tried to kind of signpost your way through. When I'm talking about something, I'm included here, bottom right image. So it's clear which image that I'm talking about. I'm saying above or below, talking about specific details. You might think about highlighting some of those and also adding little titles to some of your images. So in your text, it's really clear when someone reads it what it's relating to. My designer research has gone across 2 pages. I can fit it all into one, and I think realistically you are going to struggle fitting it all into one page. Again, on this page it's slightly different. It's where my research has slightly evolved. The first page was all about form, and then this page has been a lot more to do with kind of how it's been constructed and how it's been made. I'm talking about the materials. I've even got some examples of the art, photographs of the examples of the artist working on this structure. I've also looked at the kind of overall surface texture, so I've cropped right in here to show these rivet patterns. And I've related that to this kind of World War II aircraft because those were some of the connections that I found. And those connections are really important because when you go on to design and respond to your designer research, it may be just as much to do with that material or World War II aircrafts as it is this design itself that you're taking reference from. So more connections to the kind of greater macro world, the better. I've also gone on and finally just to look at 2 other examples of his work. So this piece here was a piece which followed on a piece he made a bit later from the chaise longue that was featured kind of here and on the previous page. For me, this isn't as a successful piece of design, and I won't be looking at it to kind of take inspiration from or to draw and design from. But what it does do is it contextualizes his work and tells you a little bit more about the story of his work and how he's applied some of the same DNA that was featured in this design and applied it to another one. And that's really about what you guys are going to go on to do next. Taking the essence and the DNA of a designer's work and creating a range of different designs, even in different mediums that reference it. I've talked a lot about his kind of DNA and what is the essence of a Mark Newson design. And I've included down here just another example. Again, it's just small, but it's making a reference to how we can see the links between some of these sort of globule-like forms, these compound curves where something's curving in 2 directions. You can really see it evidenced here in this work and in the work of the chaise longue, which I've specifically looked at. Key things that you need to think about and discuss is obviously colour, texture, materiality. You also want to think about who the design is for. What's its intended audience? With this piece of research, I talked a lot about this chaise longue being, quite a sculptural object. When it was created in the 90s, it really sort of linked, it sat somewhere in between fine art and contemporary art and design and a functional object. It was somewhere in between the two. And, how that in itself kind of resulted in its extortionate price tag of being sold for over £1 million in auctions now. So I think it's really important to look at the greater picture of it, but think about who this is for, what's its audience, what's it intended to do. How functional is the object? Talk about and use relevant terminology like ergonomics. So ergonomics is how something fits to the human form. Use terminology like that, highlight it, show that you've got good linguistic ability to discuss design. And also think about the period in which the design belongs. Is it something that's really contemporary? Is it something that has come about as a result of political factors, environmental factors, social factors? Is it something about the period in which it was designed? So this was built in the 90s. So I've referenced here the kind of, the decreased amount of technology at the time. It'd be much easier to create something like this now with, fourth axis CNC milling machines. But this was sculpted by hand. And what is the importance of that to this piece of design? So think about its greater picture. Think about the obvious things, but also think about some of the subtleties. Find as many connections you can. Write in as much depth as you possibly can, because it's through your writing you are going to gain an understanding of the stuff that you're looking at. So I wish you the best of luck. Do be in contact. Ask me any questions with your work. Please obviously spend some time, really play around with layout and presentation, and make your designer research pages as beautiful as possible. Thank you very much for listening. Bye.